We have been taught that the saints were instruments of God's will, humble vessels chosen to channel divine power. Their lives are presented as paragons of faith, their miracles as proof of heaven's favor. But what if that is only half the story? What if some saints were not just instruments? What if they were masters of science so powerful, a knowledge so ancient, that it could be mistaken for divine intervention? We see glimpses of famous saints, but with a strange heretical twist. A halo that glows with the symbols of the zodiac, a saint healing not with prayer, but with a gesture that seems to channel raw energy. For centuries, the Church has presented us with a sanitized version of these lives. The truth is that their miracles may have another explanation, an explanation rooted in a hidden tradition, a secret science that the Church had absorbed in order to control. In this video, we will open the classified dossiers of two of the most brilliant saints in history. We will explore the evidence that their divine gifts did not come from heaven alone, but from a forbidden and ancient well of knowledge. If you want to know the magic behind the miracles, subscribe now and join our investigation. To understand the secret of the saints, we must first understand the world they lived in, the world of medieval Europe. This was an age drenched in belief. The air itself was thick with the presence of God, angels, and demons. Magic was not a fantasy. It was a real and terrifying force. A farmer's crops could be blighted by a curse. A nobleman could be seduced by a love potion. A village could be plagued by a creature summoned from the darkness. In this world, the Catholic Church was locked in a constant war for control. Its greatest weapon was a claim to a monopoly on the supernatural. Only the Church, through its sacraments, its priests, and its saints, could legitimately channel the power of God. A miracle performed by a priest was a sign of divine authority. But a miracle performed by a woman in a village using herbs and chants was witchcraft, a sign of a demonic pact. The phenomenon might be the same, a person being cured of a sickness, but the source determined whether it was holy or heretical. This created a dangerous and powerful dilemma. The Church needed miracles. It needed saints who could heal the sick, levitate, and receive visions to prove to the masses that God was on its side. But it also lived in mortal terror of independent practitioners of magic who threatened its power. The solution was a brilliant system of control, canonization. The process of declaring someone a saint was not just a holy investigation. It was a political mechanism. It was a way for the Church to find individuals of immense power and knowledge, and instead of burning them as heretics, to absorb them, to claim their power as its own, edit their stories, and present a safe, sanctioned version to the world. A saint, therefore, became the only safe way to be a magician in the Christian world. Our first case file opens in 12th century Germany with a woman who would become one of the most extraordinary figures of the Middle Ages, Hildegard of Bingen. The official story presents her as a devout Benedictine abbess, a visionary who received divine revelations directly from God. But when you read her own descriptions of these visions, they sound less like encounters with angels and more like psychedelic journeys into the heart of the cosmos. From the age of 3, Hildegard claimed to see a light so intense she called it the shade of the living light. It did not speak to her in simple words. It flooded her mind with complex, symbolic images of the universe's inner workings. In her masterwork, Civias, she describes these visions. She saw the universe not as a simple creation, but as a cosmic egg, with the earth at its center, surrounded by concentric spheres of fire, ether, and light, a model eerily similar to ancient Hermetic and Gnostic cosmology. She drew mandalas, intricate circular diagrams representing the harmony of the divine and material, a practice far more common in Eastern mysticism than in a German convent. Where did this knowledge come from? The Church said it was from God. But Hildegard was also a scientific genius. She wrote Physica, a detailed encyclopedia of the medicinal uses of hundreds of plants, trees, and stones, knowledge that seemed to rival the wisdom of any pagan herbalist. She even invented her own secret language, the lingua ignota, an entire lexicon of over 1,000 words that had no known precedent. Was this truly divine inspiration? Or was Hildegard, either consciously or unconsciously, tapping into something else? A current of ancient, pre-Christian knowledge. Her vision bears striking resemblance to descriptions of shamanic trances, with a mystic journeys to the world tree to understand the secrets of the cosmos. Her holistic view of medicine mirrors the Hermetic principle of as above, so below. Hildegard may not have been just a vessel for God's word. She may have been a powerful seer, a Gnostic philosopher, a Christian shaman whose experiences were so profound and undeniable that the church had no choice but to call her a saint. Our second dossier takes us to the 13th century, to a man so brilliant he was known as a Doctor Universalis, Albertus Magnus, or Albert the Great, the teacher of the great St. Thomas Aquinas. Albert was a titan of scholastic thought, but whispered legends have always followed his name, legends of a different kind of knowledge. For centuries, stories circulated that Albertus Magnus was a master alchemist and a practicing magician. The most persistent legend is that of the brazen head, an automaton, a mechanical head made of brass that he allegedly spent 30 years building. The stories claim this automaton could speak, answer any question, and predict the future. His own student, Thomas Aquinas, was said to have been so terrified by the demonic talking head that he smashed it to pieces. A fanciful story, perhaps, but it points to a reputation for knowledge that went far beyond theology. Albert's official writings give us clues. He wrote extensively on chemistry, mineralogy, and botany, but if you read them with a knowing eye, they are filled with alchemical principles. He describes the virtues of stones and their connection to the planets and zodiac signs, pure astrology. He details the processes of distillation and sublimation, the core practices of laboratory alchemy. The great work of alchemy was not about turning lead into gold, but about purifying a substance to its perfect state, a process that mirrored the purification of the human soul. Albert was bridging the world of Christian mysticism with the experimental, hands-on science of the alchemical tradition. Was he simply a brilliant natural philosopher, as the church maintains? Or was he something more? A true magus, a Christian wizard who had mastered the hidden laws of nature. His knowledge was so vast, his reputation for strange powers so widespread, that perhaps the only way the church could contain his legacy was to sanctify it. By making him a saint, they transformed the master magician into a miracle worker, turning the forbidden science of alchemy into the divine work of God. If these saints were indeed practitioners of a secret science, how did they hide it in an age when the Inquisition was always watching? They hid it in plain sight, using the language of God to speak of the laws of nature. Their work is a masterclass in esoteric cryptography. Let's look again at Hildegard's illuminated manuscripts. When she draws her cosmic egg, we see the earth at the center, surrounded by spheres. To a Christian, it is a model of God's perfect creation. To a student of the Kabbalah or Hermeticism, it is a clear diagram of the Sephirot, the emanations of God, showing the path of creation from the divine to the material. Her mandalas, which she called the flower of life, are not just beautiful Christian symbols. They are precise geometric diagrams that form the basis of what is known as sacred geometry, an ancient science that taught that God geometrizes. Now consider Albertus Magnus. When he writes about the properties of sapphire stone, he speaks of its ability to cool the passions and make peace between enemies. To the layman, this is pious folklore. To an alchemist, it is a coded reference to the stone's planetary correspondence, in this case Venus, and its use in creating talismans for love and reconciliation. His entire body of work can be read on two levels: as Christian philosophy for the uninitiated, and as a practical manual of natural magic for those with the keys to understand it. This was their genius and their means of survival. They wrote in a double language. They cloaked their forbidden knowledge in the accepted robes of theology, creating a body of work that could pass the scrutiny of bishop, but could be correctly interpreted by a fellow alchemist or mystic. They were hiding their secrets not in a locked vault, but on the open page. So we are left with a profound and unsettling question. Where does the work of God end and the science of humanity begin? The lives of saints like Hildegard and Albertus blur that line until it almost disappears. They force us to reconsider the very nature of a miracle. Was Hildegard's vision of the universe a divine gift, or the result of a shamanic trance that opened her mind to the fabric of reality? Was Albert's legendary talking head a demonic trick, or a marvel of mechanics and acoustic science centuries ahead of its time? When we call something a miracle, are we simply putting a divine name on a natural phenomenon we do not yet understand? The history of the Church is filled with these ambiguities. Figures like Pope Sylvester II, a brilliant scholar of the 10th century, was so advanced in mathematics and science that he was widely accused of being a sorcerer who had made a pact with the devil. He was a pope, yet he was feared as a magician. This tells us everything we need to know. The church has always had a complex relationship with power. It seeks it, it needs it, but it also fears it when it cannot control the source. Perhaps the greatest secret of the saints is this: the church, in its quest for authority, knowingly canonized some of history's most brilliant scientists, magicians, and occultists. It absorbed their power, claimed their discoveries as its own, and wrapped their forbidden knowledge in the safe, holy robes of sainthood. It preserved the ancient sciences by calling them miracles. And it leaves us to wonder, what is a miracle, after all, if not a science that we have been taught to forget?